Okay. Good afternoon and welcome to another Exploring Consciousness with the Earth Nouveau team. We have got no topic today. We're going to be free today, and any question goes, and you may not have any ideas, we will find out and give you the answers next time. So, you know, we allow ourselves to be open like that. So this is actually just fire your questions, any ideas, any thoughts, anything that you want to share today, what's been happening to you, and we'll just see how we can facilitate and in what sort of direction we can take it. Yeah.
Do you want me to start off?
Yes, please. Hi, Norman. How are you?
Afternoon, all. I was looking at the AB website the other day, and he was saying that by bringing forth the power of contract replications, he helps individuals reclaim their sovereign free will and find their way to peace, joy, and happiness. For indeed, that is what we all seek. Now, the question is, if you have a level of peace, joy, and happiness, if you go down the AB route, is there a danger that you might find out more about yourself and you lose a lot of that peace, joy, and happiness that you already have?
Okay, so that is an interesting question. Because you go first, Laura.
Yes, yeah, there is a chance that you will. And then there is the chance that you will find something more authentic than you have. And I'm not suggesting what somebody has in peace, joy, and happiness isn't authentic. But the other thing that comes up for me in that is, one, is that a real one? Is it really authentic? Or is it something we are just sort of projecting forward, which is fine, but are we healing ourselves? And are we covering the issues that we need to cover? And one of the revocations brings up for us unhealed issues. And I think the thing of peace, joy, and happiness all the time sounds wonderful, but that is, to me, a bit of a light workerish misnomer, because I think we do need to experience some of the sadness so we can experience some of the joy and learn from it. So we need some of these also polarity situations so that we can learn from them. And surely it's having the sad times that actually gives us the joy as well. Is that something that sort of resonates with you, Norman?
No, I think that's a very good reply, and I think the authenticity word that you used, and I guess it's any field that we're in ourselves, that to go forward, sometimes you have to go 2 or 3 steps backwards to actually go 3 or 4 steps forward. So I think you answered that very, very well, and you evoked my thoughts. So no, thanks, sir. That's a good reply. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Guys, can I just say something? We have a bit of a crackling going on. So if you're not on talking, can you just mute yourself and see who the crackler is? It could be me. And if it is me, then I will have to put those babies in. And if not, then I'd rather not. Okay, so let's just see what happens then. So, yeah, I would say also what Laura said was just also what I was thinking in the beginning is like, joy and happiness, is this something you can actually lose? And if you can, is it really the true thing, the authentic thing, you know, as such? But I'm wondering about the question. Have you started doing the revocation and something came up for you? Now you have to unmute. I don't know how, I can't.
No, I have read some of the revocations a while ago, and so on my to-do list to kind of read them from your suggestions. No, it's just something that floated into my mind the other day, so that was the only reason for asking at this stage.
Yeah. By the way, I think you're the crackler. Have you got a headphone or something? You might be crackling today. Just sounded.
I'm the crackler.
You're the crackler when.
I'm often known as crackers, but crackling, no. I will.
Stop. No, it stopped. Okay, no worries. So yeah, I don't think that is something one needs to worry about, because all of those revocations, they're just really starting to clear the layers and take you straight to the source of true happiness, if you wish, you know. So, you know, and everything else that does go, if you want to lose that, is probably not really a waste if you have lost that.
It is also a bit of a misnomer, isn't it, that the whole thing of joy, love, peace is all there is, and that makes us limited beings. I mean, doing the revocations opens so many things. I think so many people find it gives you a greater expansion, a greater awareness, and then in that you can start to turn, through action, you turn that knowingness into wisdom, which we're unlimited beings. So why stop at peace, joy and love? You know, why don't we want to experience it all? And there's nothing wrong with peace, joy and love, but on its own, that's all, can almost be a bit insular. You know, we're expanding consciousness. Yeah. So why not do the revocations?
There's maybe something I could think of is when you start expanding and you come out of your limited space, it can start feeling a bit unsettled. You know, some people feel dizzy almost when they start reading it. And if you have got so acquainted to that almost comfort space of the limitation, and then you start letting them go, every time you read it, you get into that expanded space, and it's like, some people can't handle that, and that could be unsettling. Mm-hmm. It's almost like, I remember having a Bowen client at the time, and just doing the Bowen on the person started releasing and opening a space for her she could not handle, because it was too expansive for her, because she needed to hold everything together in order to maintain the level of false equilibrium that she had.
Yeah, it depends whether, you know, the person is ready to do the work and the inner healing that the revocations will no doubt bring up. I mean, when I first read Andrew's 5 revocations, I cried, particularly with the Divine Feminine, and many people I know have that experience. And that's something that needed healing in me. So it highlights so many areas. And yeah. Beyond the 5 revocations, Norman, I would go and write your own based on sort of Andrew's outline. They are so good for reinforcing your own energetic field. It's a statement you're making through your throat chakra, your soul, to the world. And your soul likes to hear that, likes to hear you speak your words. And I think it's such a profound, it's one of the basic, absolute basic things for consciousness exploring, and also in a safe way, and claiming your sovereignty. I mean, it really is the groundwork for me. It was anyway.
Can I chime in here, Martina?
Sure. You need to unmute, darling.
No, I didn't hear you, sorry. So yes, I think what came up for me when Nouveau was started to speak is, you know, I work with loads of people, and it's a vulnerability. You know, when we are willing to be vulnerable, that doesn't have to be for other people, but for us. And when we are willing to be vulnerable, and when I had a session with Andrew, I remember that he was asking me a question, and I tried to ignore the question because I wasn't willing to be that. Like Nouveau was saying, like, you know, when you do the revocations, and you know, Martin and me, I'm doing loads of stuff, loads of different kind of stuff with clients, with people, cooking, with food, with alchemy. But when I was listening Andrew's new GH 2.0, I got to a stage when I actually got scared to like, wow, this is really happening. And then I stopped. Just no, I'm going to take a break. And I healed, which is Andrew has given me a very good, I don't even know what it is, energy, if you will, that I hear that. And now I'm ready to re-listen to it. And when last night, when we have it every Tuesday night, when Martina was on last night, we talked about the vagus nerve, and I find it fascinating because whenever I hear something, whether it's a revocation like we're talking about, whether it's anything else, and if I find anything within myself that, okay, it needs healing or it's vulnerable, I actually do it. I actually take responsibility and do it. Sometimes I know it's not comfortable. Like I had clients this week, like today, like Martina said, when you have that comfort zone, but what if you go outside of that? And when they discovered, like even now, a lot of people ignoring what is going on within them.
Yeah.
You can't change them, but they can say, okay, I'm going to expand this. And when we read the revocations or the other stuff, you know, or we have a session with Andrew, or we listen to like conversation like yesterday, or whatever, that means you remember, Andrew, what happened last night? Andrew was asking that, why are you here or something like that, and the internet blown up in the house. I didn't hear that conversation, but we are here to expand, to learn, to be more conscious, to be more galactic, to be more alchemy, to every single one of us is a different person.
Yeah.
And
thanks for that, Andrea. And I think that might answer a little bit your question, Norman. You know, that type of work brings up stuff as we open up and expand. Yes.
And can I just jump in, Martina?
Please do.
You know, I suppose in some of the work that I do, there's often a perception that there are certain feelings that are good and certain feelings that are bad. So sometimes it's difficult to get people to actually make contact and connect with the feelings that they perceive as bad. Of course, there's no such thing as good or bad feelings. They're all just feelings. And what feelings need and what they want, if they had a voice, is to be expressed. So if you have anger or fear or sadness, what it needs is an expression. And once it's expressed, it's honored and it dissolves.
Mary, sorry, I have to. Mary,
can you hear me?
Do you guys hear the cracking? Have you got headphones maybe or something? Do you hear the crackling, or is it just me?
It's you. I think you are the crackling, darling.
Okay, so I'll put them in. So it's not crackling. Okay, then I shut up. Okay.
I don't think Mary's crackling. It seems to be when you speak.
Okay.
Let's try again.
So I won't speak.
We can't hear you, Mary, now.
I think, Martina, it's when you move your hands that it creates something. So maybe that's what it is. But anyway, did you hear what I was saying? Could you?
It's expressing your feelings is what you're saying, Mary, I think. Yes.
Yeah. No, you're frozen, Mary. Come back.
Okay, so we lost Mary.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. She'll come back. So is there anything else you guys want to say to that in terms of, really diving into the feelings and allowing them? And, also recognizing that, for instance, you were mentioning, I think, I don't know who mentioned the crying, the releasing of the tears.
Yeah.
That is part of the healing. And that is not necessarily a sadness as such. I can cry when I'm happy too.
Sorry, I don't know what happened. I just died. Were you all there? Was I the only one that
We were waiting, Mary, with bated breath. Go on.
I was saying there's something that it's what I do in my work sometimes. It's called the empty chair technique. If people are finding it really difficult to access or express, or even to even identify, to be honest, because sometimes it can be so denied for so long they can't identify the feeling. But if they're finding that difficult, and they are, because that's a lot of the reason why they come, I take that aspect of the person out and put it in the empty chair. And I get the person to dialogue with that part of themselves in the empty chair. And if they have difficulty doing that, I will sometimes go into that chair and I'll impersonate that aspect for the person so that they can make contact with it. It is something that I do in my work that is hugely successful for me, because it really helps the person to make contact with those denied parts and painful parts. So that's all I want to say about that. It's just that
so Mary,
all feelings are authentic. They're all feelings. They're all fine. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to express it. It's just not to do any harm with it. It's okay to be fearful. It's just to express it, but not to act out of it. You can, but until it's expressed and acknowledged, you will act out of it. I've done it. I've acted out of fear when I couldn't express it, even when I knew I had it, you know. So it's just about that. That's the point I'm trying to make, that it's just about the expression. It's not that any of them are better than other feelings. Some are certainly easier to have, like the joy and the happiness, you know, but all of the others are all authentic too and have their place.
Mary, do you want to tell us a little bit what type of work you do with people?
I do counseling, psychotherapy work, and you know, when Norman said there about peace, joy and happiness, I think he said it was the three feelings. A lot of the time at the beginning of therapy, I would find that when you ask a person how they're feeling, and I've done this, they will say fine. So you might say, well, what is fine? How could you define that? And they say, I'm just okay, I'm fine. So then you have to try and see, why are they there? What is the problem? And it's usually the hardest thing to access, is to be able to get down to the feelings that have been just buried for so long, a lot of the time since childhood. And they are affecting the person. And I was even thinking about that yesterday when I was listening to you and Andrew talking, Martina. You know, with the agencies and all of that, and how it all ties in, you know, and how that gets set up in somebody. And they just keep going, keep plowing through. But, you know, it's not considered to be okay to have those feelings. And I suppose we were never really taught or given a space to express, you know, anger or fear. It's regarded as, you know, oh gosh, we need to get rid of this, you know, we need to change that. And I suppose what therapy does is, instead of trying to deny it and change it, we go into it. We just sit there and be that feeling, be anger. What does it need to say? What's it angry at? Who is it angry at? What has happened? Why is anger so sad? Because at the base feeling behind anger is always sadness. There is always loss and sadness and pain somewhere behind that feeling. Anger is the one that's up in front and is portraying something, but behind it there's the loss and there's the sadness. And people heal when they can contact that, and when they can be heard, you know, and their authenticity and their expression of it. It does help them to heal. And another person witnesses that. And, you know, in witnessing it, you're saying, it's okay. It's okay. I understand. I can see your experience. I understand. And that can bring the healing that they didn't get because there was nobody to witness it way back, you know.
Yeah. Now, Sue was just saying here, you know, why it's probably difficult to sometimes express that is because we have been shamed to express.
Yes, and conditioned. Yeah.
Sue, do you want to say something to that?
Well, I suppose, you know, shadow work has been, you have to, I'm hiding underneath, I'm hiding underneath a blanket here in the garden like I'm about age 8. So sorry about the visuals. But yeah, I suppose the shadow work has been a massive part of my recovery, being hugely shamed for having any independent opinions, let alone expressing anger or any shadow, what we call shadow side of that emotional spectrum, really. And one of the people I was reading at some point for bits of inspiration was Chuck Spezzano, and he had a really, really interesting take on it, on the shadow side of emotions. I don't know whether you're seeing his stuff. He's got some quite hard-hitting cards on his website. It's called Chuck Spezzano 3-card reading. And the first card is about the victim, you know, the victim issue. So they're quite hard hitting, and they're really kind of useful to look at the harder archetypes, really, that we're discouraged to integrate, as we've been talking about. But a homeopathic friend of mine with him in mind was actually saying that the very best thing we can do is not only allow ourselves to feel that emotion, but to actually completely immerse in it for the allowance of that emotion, even if it's just for a short time. You know, it's like what we resist persists. So in that sense, if you're feeling sad, to actually go, oh my God, I'm so sad. Like,
yes, exaggerate the emotion.
Really, to ham it up, you know.
Yes.
Yes. Oh my God, I'm feeling so fucking suicidal. How did I get here? You know, and before you know it, you could be giggling in that one. But you know, it's like the brave heart of the shaman, really, willing to go in and go, okay. And for me, the first question is normally now, is that mine? But to be honest, if it's resonating quite deeply with me, I've taken it on as mine, whether it is mine or not mine. So for that, I go, okay, come on, we have to clear this anyway. You know, it's here now.
Yes.
And I think it takes a brave heart to delve into those places. And I was so in denial for so long about, you know, that shadow self, the unmet needs of the woman, and how petulant her child was about those unmet needs, when I was so in the martyr syndrome of looking after other people's needs and not putting myself in the own equation.
And that's okay. That's okay. That's something you had to do to survive. That worked well for you once.
And so, yeah, I think it's good to be brave, and it's good, as Martina and Andrew were discussing last night.
Usually, you know, people come for help with something like that when it starts to become a problem, when they start to feel the pain, and when they feel that they're not moving in the direction that maybe they should be moving, or that they could be moving, or whatever their life path is, and begin to feel that, and they begin to feel there's something just not quite right. So then they will come for help. Yeah, there's no judgment, you know, as to what we do. We've all done it. We've all denied it. We've all tried to carry on as if, and all of that. And eventually, you know, the healing time is different for everybody.
And at some point, it'll get big enough to come and bite you on your bum, and you have to deal with it.
That's it. That's it. Yes. And then when it does, there's help there, and it's wonderful. But the exaggerating the feeling is a great way, I think, to deal with it, because it transmutes it. And you're right, you do end up laughing, because you kind of laugh at yourself in the end.
Yeah, lightens things up eventually.
Yes, yes.
And if we can't just go into that place and feel it and go mighty, that is that big. And in that knowledge, in the depth of it, it can be released. But as you said last night,
sometimes we don't even know it. We don't know what it is. We don't know even that we're sad. We don't know that maybe we're angry deep down somewhere about something for many years. We just don't recognize it, because we have lived with that and coped with that by denying it for so long. It becomes just part of the denial, becomes part of how we express ourselves. You know,
I suppose
it's difficult.
I was going to say, I suppose, Mary, it becomes part of a survival program.
It does.
That we run on. And then when you're into a survival program, then you start leaving your body some of the time, or you're not in your body as much as you should be. So your I am presence isn't there as much as it should be.
Yes.
And so many people run on survival programs.
Absolutely, and we all have had them, and still do. You know, there's times I can recognize it even in myself. You know, and it's I suppose in recognizing all of those things in ourselves helps us to recognize it and help other people, because that's what it's about. It's about understanding and recognition.
And I think that's one thing the contract revocations do. They sort of flush that out. But I guess, Norman, you know, to go back right to the beginning, to the meaning of contract revocations, it is to revoke the contracts that have been put on us at birth.
It is,
and
yes.
I get in understanding of that, and that is, as I think I said earlier, is the cornerstone to our sovereignty. It's the cornerstone to our self-governance, and saying, you know, the system is no longer going to predict and decide for me.
Yes, absolutely.
It has to be said, you know, it's not just once either. That's one of the first things I learned, is it's repeated many, many, many times, because it's very much a layering process.
Yes.
And people, I know, I've given plenty of people revocations, and it takes courage, it takes commitment, it takes a discipline to read those revocations on a regular basis and take it the next stage and record those revocations. You know, take it the next stage, record them, play them back multiple times, and in different places of the house, to crystals. That, you know, there's all sorts of work to be done with the revocations, but they really help you claim your sovereignty and your place in the world.
Yes, it's like kicking out the agency, isn't it, that Martina and Andrew were talking about yesterday?
Yes,
Indeed,
yes,
indeed.
very much so.
Yes.
And remember,
Yes.
guys, just want to say something to Laura, because I really like what you said, if I may, if you don't mind, that many times people judge me because I'm happy or joyful, but I do the bloody work. I do it every day.
Totally.
For many, over 20 years, I do it.
Yes.
I took responsibility. Was it always hunky-dory and joyful? No. But I said, no, I'm going to do it. And that's why I am where I am. That's when I'm joyful. That's when I'm happy. You know?
Yes. A genuine joy.
And I'm not ashamed to admit, like, okay, so when I was listening to those things, yes, I actually physically went down on the floor. I was taken down. On the floor. I couldn't breathe a few weeks ago. So I said, okay, so what is this? And I didn't ashamed to say, okay, no, something needs healing. I healed it and move on. And now I have a different knowledge. I can now express, okay, I know what it was. Cool. Now move on. And like we remember, Laura, you were saying at the beginning that there are bad things, and even Andrew said yesterday there are bad things, and that was a bad thing, because I have seen things I'm not supposed to see. And okay, cool. So fine. And Andrew was saying, I think yesterday about it, that it's okay. You know, don't be scared. I don't know what's the expression he said, that don't judge it. I can't remember, but something like that. So it's okay. They exist. So what?
Yes.
You know?
And just Melissa, you had a question, but I didn't get a chance to read it. Do you want to ask it?
Oh, what, the one I just wrote down?
Yes.
In the chat.
I can't read it.
The invocation. So am I saying it correctly? Invocations. I've only ever done revocations. I would like to know. So you cover everything. Where's the best place to start? Because I know there's loads, but where would you suggest?
AndrewBartzitz.com.
Yeah.
He's got 7 free ones on there.
Okay, right. I see.
So the 5 main ones sort of cover every area of our life, sort of within the matrix, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
And then others as well. I think there's Shaman's Death. There's a couple of others there. Start with those. And I think it probably takes half an hour to read the 5. And I think saying afterwards, you know, earlier, some people just, you know, they won't get through the first one for whatever reason, as we were just saying, either fear or they lack the discipline and so on. It does take, as we were all been saying, it does take the commitment to do that.
Yeah, of
but
course.
I did see the results
Yeah.
Fairly early on. And there's, you know, then the more you go to enjoy, the better it is, obviously, but it's the commitment to do it. Even if you don't, I say to people, look, even if you don't understand the words you're reading,
Yeah.
look them up. I didn't understand incubus and succubus for ages, and then I looked it up, or ask one of us, and go with, you know, if something really doesn't resonate with you, don't leave it out. Find out why that particular thing doesn't resonate with you. That could be a really deep aspect that needs to be brought to the light. So start with those. And I often used to do you have a time when you do them. I often used to do them before bed.
Before make you go to sleep. Did it help you go to sleep?
Yeah, very, very much so. I felt very protected, had better dream time, and just generally in my life. Yes, if I don't play them regularly in the house I live in, because I share the space with a partner who, you know, is not spiritual. So that's
Are you
fine.
near ley lines? Or obviously ley lines are everywhere, but
can you play them to ley lines?
No. Like I was just asking where your location, like, because some of us live closer to specific ley lines. Doesn't matter. I just wanted to say though, like in my life, like I have found that like the hardest, most painful experience, one particular I'm thinking of, during the time it was terrible and it was so painful, but when I look back and from what I've learned from the experience, and it was so amazing. It was so amazing because I learned so much from the pain, you know, from the darkness, from, if that's the way you want to perceive it. I don't look at things as like negative or, you know, positive, but it was all these, like, it's like I look at it like a tree, like with the roots, it goes so deep and dark, and people, you obviously like have to look at these parts of yourself. And I've found that a lot of people that I connect with, they don't want to talk about negative things. You know, you've got to keep it all happy and positive, and you know, but this is where the truth is, isn't it? In the darkness, I suppose. It's looking at, you know what I'm trying to say, basically.
Yeah, bringing the light day. Yeah, bringing the light day to those dark areas and exposing them. Yeah, and not judging them for what they are. They are a learning experience with an outcome.
Right, and it's okay to acknowledge what we perceive, you know, but I found that if you won't look at these things, you can't grow, you know, in any sort of, you would go with that, wouldn't you, Mary? If you don't look at these things, you can't grow.
No, you have to look, yes. And eventually life will throw up the opportunity. Life will give us many opportunities to look. And, you know, sometimes we let them pass by, but they will come round again. And when we get them, you know, whatever we do with the opportunity, we do grow.
Yeah.
Even in letting it bypass us, you know, there's a learning in it.
Yeah.
Melissa, I wrote in the chat that let's support our galactichistorian.com. There is a Mandela Revo that came out that I have an awareness that might be good for you to read and record it. But Andrew said when, I don't know, can't remember which month, last year or this year, can't remember. I don't even know what date. But if you email them, they will send you that.
Okay, thank you. No, I definitely would love to do this. I really, really should do this. Definitely.
Andrew said that we have to email them, and that's why they send it out. Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Mary, a question for you.
Yes.
Do you think that certain people in different parts of the country, and I come from the east coast of Scotland, and I think a lot of us up there are not very good at showing our feelings. We don't express our feelings, whereas people from Glasgow are actually quite good at showing their feelings. in your work, do you find that people in different parts of the country are better at showing the feelings than others?
I do. I think it's a very cultural thing, Norman. You know, even here in this country, it varies a lot between the different areas of the country. But I do work as well with foreign nationals. And I have often found that with a lot of those, they're very aware of their feelings and they will express them way more easily than we will here in Ireland, because we have been so conditioned and so shamed for having what would be regarded as negative feelings, you know, and those feelings have to be kept down. So it's really difficult for people in their adult life to access them, because, as I said, they don't know what they are. They don't even know that they have them.
And that's mainly religious feelings? Is it because of the religious?
Well, no, it wouldn't be. Well, the conditioning is some religion, of course, because of the Catholicism here. But that's not the same as it was now. That's very different to how it used to be, we'd say 20 or 30 years ago. But it's just also the conditioning in the communities, you know, and it's all based on, you know, being the good girl and the nice girl and the good boy and the nice boy, and, you know, nice boys don't throw things and good girls do what they're told, and that kind of thing. And that's conditioning the child, you know, to only show a certain side of themselves, because that's the side that's accepted and approved. And like the earlier person was saying, and I can't remember her name there, where she was saying she was in denial, the girl that was wrapped in the blanket, I can't remember her name. But we learn very young, at a very young age, how we should behave so that we'll be accepted, because our primary need is love and contact. So we're going to do everything we can to get that. And that's clever. That's clever, because we know what to do to get it. But the trouble is that we damage ourselves in that process. But it's the journey, isn't it? You know, it's the journey. So
it's always the journey.
Yes, it's the journey.
There's nothing at the end of that rainbow. It's the journey.
Yeah.
So do you think you're inspired enough to do contract revocations now, Norman?
Absolutely. And I remember it must be about 5 or 6 weeks ago when you sent your lovely 3 revocations through. I don't know if that was the main version you have, or that was just for that meet. That was about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and I've got them. I've read them 2 or 3 times, and I just quite like the way you do it. So the idea of doing my own revocations, you know, I like that, and I'll follow through on that.
Lovely. Yeah, that's great. Yes, we've got some on the Nouveau site, but Andrew's got, as I say, the 5 basic ones that you can get started with. They're the real game changers, I think.
Yes.
Hi guys, just 1 second. I'm trying to let here we go. I'm trying to let Andrew in. I'm struggling with my system. Andrew is coming in now. Sorry about that.
Good.
I keep my camera off and I mute myself again. It's crackling.
Well, actually, Martina, you sound really clear now. So there's no crackling if you want to try it, and we'll let you know. I'll type a message to you.
Let me know. I keep the camera off.
Okay.
I just keep the thing on. So Andrew is in now too. Are you in? Andrew? Yes.
Okay.
Okay, cool. Okay.
Everybody's gone silent.
Where's Andrew? What made you write the contract revocations, Andrew? Because that's what we've been discussing. Is he not in, Martina?
I'll let him in.
I'll message him. See if
He's there. He's there, but he's muted.
Oh, he's muted.
Okay.
Andrew Bartz, you got to unmute.
I can't see him.
Yeah, he's here. Unmute audio.
Oh, I see him. Yes, he's muted. Maybe he's just not sitting down.
Now he's
here.
in.
My power cord.
Yeah, I'm struggling with stuff. So
Laura, Andrew's in now. Laura has a question for you, Andrew.
What's up?
Oh, we've been talking about the contract revocations, and we've recommended your initial 5 revocations. Mm-hmm. And did you write them initially on a needs basis for yourself?
No. No.
Okay.
Government, banking, media, divine masculine, divine feminine were all written in a period of 2 total hours, beginning to end. And all of them were written for exactly the time that would be an archive for everyone else that's trying to tune into a signature frequencies of adding and understanding the nature of sovereignty, seen and unseen. I writ them for a specific purpose and a specific point in space-time so that they could be standing frequencies in time for anyone that wanted to stand up for their personal sovereignty. So it was one stream and flow of information.
I remember, Andrew, the first time I heard them, especially I think the Sacred Feminine, I cried.
A lot of people have cried, even for the media ones. I mean,
Yes.
all their eyes out. Everyone
Yeah.
in their own way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
there were single stream of consciousness. Now, the one that was for the shaman's death, now that one I wrote in 2015, right after I had visited the grove of the patriarchs in Mount Rainier. I came back from that and I was divinely inspired. And in about 45 minutes, I wrote that one and auditing your dream weave.
Yes.
Auditing your dream weave has gone through many iterations. It wasn't just the way it exists now.
Okay.
And then the rest of the Living the Mystical Life daily stuff, I wrote all in November 2016, November 7th to 11th, 2016, right after Natalie had passed. Because she died October 22nd.
Right.
So, Melissa, you know, the Living the Mystical Life Daily, this is a program you still have on your website, isn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, it's still there.
Yeah. So that you were asking before for the contract revocations, that is the program which would be useful to look at if you haven't yet.
Yeah, no, thank you. I will look at that, definitely.
Yes.
I get so frustrated because I've heard you, Andrew, say how important it is to be able to talk and you know, verbally express yourself. Like, see, even now I can't. I find it difficult to articulate what I want to say, but I can see it and feel it. But when it comes to verbalizing, you know, not like a prayer, but like the invocations that you've been, something like that. Actually, my own. You know what I'm trying to say, don't you?
So I got a question. Are you a person that likes to accessorize your clothing?
I have not really. No.
Jewelry?
No.
You should look into accessorizing clothing and jewelry to make ceremonial garb so you have a tactile feeling that I am in an empowered state.
Okay. It's funny you say that, Andrew.
It's a huge difference that when you put it on, it has all the energies of the previous ceremonies that you've done, the victories, it has the prayers built in it, the energy of building your own. I mean, you can make something, a really simple tunic out of or jerkin out of cloth and leather, silk, whatever it is that you want, and put some effort and energy behind it. So when you go to put it on, it puts you into that state of, I am empowered. I create this clothing for that.
Yeah. I will, because Andrew, I've already started on something like that. I've had it in. I bought this piece years ago, and I was going to add on to it and cut bits out. You know, I saw a completely different thing, and I've started doing it slowly again. And it's just funny that you mentioned that. Right. You know.
Yeah, I have a variety of different ceremonial things that I do, and clothing that I wear for it, and I only bring out when I'm in that level of high serious state where the work that I'm getting done is really important to me.
Look, while I've got the opportunity, while you're here, Andrew, what is the best way? Is it really important to start your morning like like in a kind of ritual way then?
It's not about
Because,
morning, afternoon, or night. It's how disciplined you are that at the end of the
right,
day you've done it, and you've done it with a nature of joy behind it and not a chore.
yeah,
So in the beginning, it's not about obsessive 9 a.m. meditate, 9:30.
yeah, no, I couldn't do that anyway.
Most
Yeah,
of the time that backfires on everyone.
yeah,
Okay, it's sometime during the day, knowing full well your programs of depression to go no, 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 no. You have enough strength to go yes, 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 yes.
yeah, that's
And
right.
then after a few months of being disciplined, of going yes, 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 then you can look at stylizing your ritual work so that you do sun gazing in the morning and the afternoon.
Yeah,
And that sun
yeah,
gazing, your eyes closed at the sun, not eyes open.
yeah, yeah,
And then you can add more and more and more and more.
okay.
It's learning how to produce your own light inside your body and not getting kicked out by your programs. That's what the beginning is about.
Yeah.
So can I ask a question, Andrew? I find it discipline quite hard, and I'm wondering at what point it's laziness, and at what point, in light of the conversation about entities and programs and that, at what point do I identify if it's laziness or whether there's something else going on?
So this is a really good question. I get asked this a lot. And the first thing I do is turn it back. Do you know when you're actually being lazy in any other subject matter in your life?
For me, I find focus really hard. I'll sit down and then I'm like, I'm ping, 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 I'm here, there. For me to just focus is incredibly hard.
Lack of focus is not laziness.
Okay.
And you actually know when you're being lazy versus unfocused.
Okay.
You know what lazy feels like.
Yeah, okay.
If you don't, you're not being lazy. You're being unfocused, ungrounded, and something's going on you physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually that's creating a soup of doubt. And you're regularly sucking on the straw of doubt.
So what can I do to eliminate that?
Alchemy. So instead of the soup of doubt, you've got to make the soup of inspiration, which is what I recommend, like Andrea, some form of food alchemy in the beginning. Morning shakes that actually have 15 minutes of, I'm super serious, I'm going to get shit done, real prayers of motivation, real self-love, real self-healing, and watch yourself try to revile and reject it as you're drinking, because there are many parts of you who will show their ugly head when you're trying to take down self-love. Okay?
Okay.
Watching yourself as you're consuming the alchemy of self-healing, self-nurturing, and self-love. Okay, sun tanning is another really good way of doing it. Okay, do you let yourself suntan or have in the past?
I adore the sun. I tell everybody I'm solar powered. As soon as the sun shines, I'm a different person.
Okay, so do you have crystals or anything like that? Any of that?
I do, but I'm not really that into crystals. I don't use them as much as I could.
Okay, so when you're sunbathing, you should have as many crystals around you or on you as possible in the beginning. Because what they are going to do is start taking a sun imprint of you. And when you find yourself lazy, challenged, in doubt, you can put those crystals in your pockets or in the ankles of your socks, and you will begin to absorb you and the sun energy feeling again, being solar powered, and can get over the lack of light or motivation. They store light. That's all you have to, the metaphysic is, it is storing light that is bonded to you, and they're in the light with you. So when you're at a point where it's hard for you to produce your own light, man, I've had all these crystals and I sunbathe 20 hours a month. That is a battery there waiting for me. Can you just put them in your pocket? Okay. And that's the challenge. Will you actually do it and then allow yourself to absorb the energy?
Yeah.
Now, another thing with lazy, a lot of people confuse lazy with depressed. Okay. Can anybody else know the difference when they're with what lazy means to them? Can you identify when you're being lazy?
Well, I've got a block about depression. So like for me, I suck it up, buttercup, and get on with it. I don't, in my mind, I don't do depression. So I don't allow myself to go there.
But that's avoiding it and making it worse.
So how do I know, how do I identify when it is?
It's right now.
Oh.
Okay, because you've been avoiding it for so long, it's not on the map of the self. Therefore, you make it on the map of the self and you make it relevant now, and you begin the self-healing and self-nurturing or by acknowledging it now so that it isn't just randomly around you all the time. The first part to self-healing and self-nurturing is loving yourself and acknowledging what you've been avoiding. Like, what aren't you acknowledging about yourself right now?
I run the I don't know program a lot.
Okay. What are you denying about yourself right now?
I constantly play small. I'm denying who I really am.
Okay. And those are the beginnings of your walk into self-healing and self-nurturing by going, I can allow myself to be powerful in this moment. I give myself permission to be powerful in this moment, and then watch the programs at play that don't want you to be and disempower them. Oftentimes the programs have 1 or 2 lines for their argument of your defeat. And write down what their arguments are. You're not good enough. And then you counter that and go, I am good enough because I am a powerful being who's acknowledging my energy right now. And you make the counter arguments. And programs just fall away when you're able to make counter arguments in the moment. So start with you.
Sound easier than I've seemed to have been in the past.
Start with food alchemy. Your morning shake, something you make special just for yourself. It could even be a dessert that's just for you. Do you live by yourself, or do you have?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not worried about somebody taking something. Make a special inspiration cake that literally has 2 hours of real prayer in it during the whole time of you assembling it. Read the contract revocations to it. Give it an actual 2 hours. So every time you go to eat a slice, wow, that has my 2 hours of effort behind it. Okay?
Thanks.
You're starting to consume your own effort. Okay? And then you can up the scale and you can like prepare. Do you have a bathtub?
Yeah.
You can prepare your bath water, but you can get one of your big pasta pots, fill it up with water, put it on the counter and simmer it till it's boiling for 1 hour or so, and keep adding more and more prayers to that, and then add that to a bathtub and then get into it. Just don't burn yourself. Okay? That's the next level of alchemy. And the next level, there's more and more that you can do where you have to start absorbing as a conscious being of choice your own energy of change. Okay.
Yeah, because I must admit, I was on a really good path, and then I was involved in a bicycling accident, and a year ago, and that's just really knocked me off path. And I was sort of.
Did you hurt your tailbone? Did you hurt your tailbone?
No.
What did you hurt?
I broke my face. I broke my eye socket, my jaw, my cheekbone. The whole side of my face was crushed.
Yeah, so your whole face residual image was crushed, and that's a challenge to recover through, and then all the surgeries you had to go through. Yeah.
I was just wondering what was behind that.
All accidents are karma.
Karma.
Yes. You recovered though. The debt is paid. Never to return.
So am I past that? Am I back on track?
Yes, as long as you don't deny yourself it. Part of the accident put you into vanity. My face is crushed. Will I ever look the same? That's natural for anyone who's had any kind of facial injuries. And that is its own trauma. Letting go of the vanity. I will be fine. I am the human being who's beautiful inside. And you are a beautiful inside being. And they did a wonderful job on the surgeries. So don't worry. Okay? They did a wonderful job. Now it's balancing that inside beauty light too.
Balance. Balance, that's the word that comes up for me all the time, balance.
Yeah. Everything in moderation, even moderation.
Yeah.
I say that to everyone. There are people that go too far down the path of super exercise or too far down the path of meditating, 12 hours a day and don't live in the world anymore. Okay? You can't stay on the far side of the pendulum and expect it not to rapidly swing to the other side and kick you in the ass. And that's for anything. Anything you can overdo, you can underdo. And as soon as you get into overdo, universe is setting up, it's waiting for you to bend over and kick you in the butt hard.
Thank you.
Anybody else a question about depression or laziness, knowing the difference?
Andrew, I have a question for you, if I may, just quickly. Just about, the signature frequencies. I mean, I'm aware of what they are and everything, but like, when you are aware there's a signature frequency, do you then take an action, or just because like obviously we have to take actions. Like, remember we spoke about, okay, you have to make an effort, you have to take action, but then do you take an action, or do you make contact, or you just don't, or I was a little bit unsure about that.
I don't understand what you're trying to ask. Try to ask it differently.
So when someone comes up in your life, okay, and you think, okay, that's a signature frequency, or that's a signature frequency, do you then make a contact, or you just let it come to you, if you will, or how do you know it's false? How do you know it's it's not false, rather?
Okay, so first thing first, don't take this the wrong way. Signature frequency has no cognitive behind it. And as long as you're trying to force cognition behind signature frequency, you're missing the whole point of the teaching itself.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, cool. All right, that's all. Thank you.
The thing is, people attract things via signature frequency. And there are a lot of people that are in a level of denial of what they really are and believe in something else. And that's why these things keep getting attracted to them.
Okay, that's right. Yeah, okay.
So just remember, you don't control signature frequency.
Yes.
And as long as you're trying to control it, you're going to make it worse.
Okay, cool.
And that's for everyone.
That's what I thought, but I just thought I don't know, I had a bit of a...
Everyone wants to control their reality.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we're at a time where the more you try to control, the more you're like the system of domination and control. It is a form of friendly surrender to the fractalization of the universe around you and trusting that the universe is trying to work with you and not against you. And it's usually us who are working against the universe, not the universe working against us.
That's right. Yes.
Times our unknowingness.
Yes. Okay, sorry, I have a bit of a...
That's good.
A moment. But anyway, yeah, that's what I thought. So yeah, yeah, thank you.
Okay, next.
Andrew, with going back to laziness and depression, is laziness something that happens in awareness and depression can happen in unawareness?
So depression can be both aware and unaware simultaneously, where compartments of you that have knowingness of how depressed you are there. Regularly feed the I am whenever it pops in, you're really depressed, but the I am ignores it because all this other shit's going on in the body. And then you have to lay some of the metaphorical blame on the I am for avoiding some of the major issues the body is constantly reporting to it. It still comes down to awareness equals responsibility. So ultimately, when dealing with depression, everybody knows when they're depressed. They're just in denial of it. And that form of and strength of denial can be so potent that doesn't allow the I am to create a memory about it.
So would it come up for them in another form as a reminder to them that they're depressed?
Correct. Overeating.
Or they label it differently.
Label it differently, correct. Or the ego takes over and defines it as something good when it's in fact bad.
So it's a continual cover-up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Andrew, can I ask, what am I covering my depression? I can't, yeah, very interesting to know what mechanism I'm using to hide.
So growing up, you had some challenges. I don't want to reveal everything going on, but you had some challenges growing up.
Yeah.
And those are your soup of depression and covering up from the abuses that you went through growing up.
Okay.
Okay. Have you really looked into those?
No, I'm very good at denial.
Why?
Because it's easier. You don't have to go there.
It's this British upper lip. Move on.
South African, I'm the South African hardcore.
Right. There's some shit there you have to face. Head on. Like a car wreck.
Not again.
Okay?
Okay.
And you have to take it in a very loving manner. Especially if you've been avoiding it for the length of time that you have. They become very, very powerful in their avoidance skills. They have lots of reasons to avoid them.
Is this part of my anger?
Yes. A major driving factor of it.
So what's the best way would the revocations help with this?
Well, the revocations are the first level of acknowledging that there's a variety of things to avoid. That counseling with somebody is one of those ways. Craniosacral therapy is another way of getting that stuff out and getting it into a recognition point. And then what I call the ritual and ceremony of telling your story to the fire, in which the ceremonial fire has your prayers, your contract revocations, and you go to the state of that fire as your oldest friend. It's like they've been a friend you've had for 40 years and you're willing to bear your soul's truth to that fire. So it gets off your chest. And oftentimes you can't do it in one fire. It may require several fires in which you have to bring notes to. Find old pictures where you know you're pissed off or whatever went wrong. There's the fake smile in the picture. And go, as this adult person, I know that's a fake smile. And really go through what I call the raking and sorting of the old memories you refuse to look at, that you've hidden away. And after a while, they will bubble to the surface, or like milk curdling, they'll come to the surface, these little memories that are painful. And you tell the story to the fire and let it go. And the fire helps you burn away the energy in the body. Okay? Acknowledging it's there is the first step. Then the next set of steps are realizing the body's been truly traumatized by the corking of this energy and the dealing with the anger. And that's stopping the habit patterns of anger from actually affecting you, which is the next level of self-healing and self-nurturing. Taking control of yourself so the programs don't run you.
And I just thought, so in the accident, I cracked the vertebrae in my back, in my top of my neck. So cranial sacral, has that had an effect on me?
will have a tremendous effect on you. Cranial sacral to realign C1, 2, the atlas and axis, and the tips of your tailbone. So whatever damage has been done to your neck is reflected in your tailbone, and any damage you've done in your tailbone is reflected in your neck. So in cranial sacral therapy, there's certain ways you can move the head and get the tailbone to have an exact immediate response the opposite direction. And part of the rock and glide and the reconnection to the cranial flow is getting the fluid to go from the tip of your tailbone to the top of your head and to open up the base of the skull so fluid flows freely. When you had your accident, all of the fascia on the top of your head and your neck and your shoulders tightened up, which is restricting your cranial fluid flow. And cranial sacral therapies, its design purpose is to unlock the knots that are in the cranial sheath so your cranial fluids can have full flow.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. For anybody that's been in a motorcycle accident, you're going to really want to delve deep into the cranial sacral therapy, and no longer 1 hour sessions probably aren't going to be enough for you. You're going to have to go to 90 minutes. And then there's stuff that's called intraoral mouth work, where there's certain points in the inside of the mouth and the roof and the inside the cheeks that they tap, and they let go a tremendous amount of emotional buildup. And because you damaged your face and your chin and your face, having that intraoral work will take away some of the psychic surgery scars that you've got going on, of what it took to reconstruct your face.
Thanks. Thank you.
I just want to say, to Andrew to say, I know I said it before, but just say thank you for recording the GH 3.0, the Galactic History 3.0. I listened to all of it, I think twice, but I had a little break and I re-listened. And Andre today put a segment from YouTube, this gentleman talking, saying, the humans are not able to even comprehend what we are capable of. So, you know, like what we talked about yesterday, like when we have the self-discipline, what you're always talking about, that I couldn't even conceive many years ago that I'm capable of this. You know what I mean? It's like when you talk about the AIs and things like that, it's like, it's a mind bender. I loved it. You know, I had to listen maybe I think twice, but like it's like we are capable of so much more than we ever comprehend.
That's right. And all too often, one subject matter can overwhelm a person. That's why when you maintain a sacred neutral perspective and point of view, the charge and polarity can't stick to you, and you create more to the story, which then creates paranoia, charge, and fear. Is letting things not have the ability to attach to you.
Yes. Yes.
Because it is an infinite world, and that infinite world can instantly overwhelm you.
Yes. But I mean, those recordings are like amazing. I mean, I'm going to listen again. I'm going to have a session with you. I'm going to book it with Michelle. I have to get back to her. Mm-hmm. For me, it's just given me, it's over the edge. Like, you know, like, I couldn't even, like when Martin said, oh, talk about the alchemy or the food and everything. I know how to do it. I just do it. I'm an action girl, if you will. But now I have this laboratory of words. I have written everything down. I can express it. I can talk about it. I can see the people. I've done so many psychic surgeries. And I tell them what food we have, what they, you know, it's like, it's incredible. I'm really grateful for that. You know, the session we had and all that recordings, and obviously I do my work, but it's incredible, and that's what I'm saying. We can even do more. This is just the tip of the iceberg, I think. So.
More is not always good, and fast action oftentimes is reverse action. I run into this a lot where people don't realize that operating in a fast action takes you away from the scenic route of the infinite universe. Mm-hmm. And everyone has this I want to get it done attitude, which is great in 3D life, but awful practice in the spiritual world. So teaching people how to slow down and process and to actually stop spiritual journeying for a while and remind themselves how to be normal people is vital on the journey. Anything you can overdo, you can underdo. And when you are in overdue, fast forward processing, you can miss as much as 70% of the point, but your ego makes you think you get it all. And that's called enlightenment traps. So in the material we presented yesterday, it was obviously way more than a lot of people could handle, but that was okay because they're going to listen to it 10, 20, 30 times, those that want to study it and not be in fear with it. That's why I started the conversation off. You can't be angry and direct fear at a hypothetical metaphor. Okay? And I already see comments and I already see people who pissed off at these agencies and they're going to go to war with them.
For me, after the session we had, I totally slowed down. Like, I mean, I'm past anyway, but like, and everything just kept flooding in. You know, I'm like, okay, cool. And then I started to put everything down and I slowed down in a way that now I'm receiving whatever like you said, I didn't receive. It's just flooded to me, to my blood and the bone marrow and the heart. So
and more than likely, you're going to have to slow down even more.
Yeah, probably.
Yes, you've been operating at such a fast state for a while until you rediscover what your natural vibration is.
Yeah.
Okay. And I do that. I get myself worked up and work into this super high vibration. I'm like, fuck, how the hell do I slow down?
You're crazy, Andrew. You are totally out of your mind. And I love that, but you know. I love that.
There are times that I'm such a low vibration, not negative. I'm so slow. I'm perceiving everything. And I'm like, am I lazy? Am I just overindulging and enjoying the state? All right, let's pick up the frequency.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I start moving faster. And then that's when I see what my vibration, frequency, and harmony does to others around me. Because it really shakes them up at times. Like a lot of times on the shows, you'll see me going from a powerful speech into the first caller's a depressed fuck that doesn't give a shit about what I just read and only wants instant gratification.
Yeah.
What's my fucking galactic history? And I have to turn that around and give that to them with such an intense force that they back away and can experience nothing.
Mm.
Okay?
But you know what was very interesting, Andrew?
I'm sorry for swearing, but I use that as an accentuation when one has to learn eternal patience, especially when your frequency, your vibration, and your harmony is just starting to get going, and somebody around you with one word can break that vibration, that motion you're getting, and to not let it get to you.
Yeah. I mean, for me, what was interesting that I slowed down, but I actually did more. I don't know how, if that's possible. Maybe because whatever I missed, it just came flooding into me, and I just created.
Okay. Now experiencing slowing down even more.
Okay.
Okay, just part of your daily practice. Well, what new levels of slowness can I experience so that my waveform is very long and not high and low peaks, top bottom really fast. So it's more like an ocean wave, very long. It's known as a long wave.
Yeah. I mean, what I do is whenever you speak, I write it down. When I hear, you know, like you spoke to David, I think that was incredible. I'm just creating a project about that, you know, with my poem, food. I made a food about that, you know, the dream weave.
Yep.
In the dream weave. Oh, that was so beautiful. I really loved it. And it really spoke to my heart. And I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing. And I'm thinking, okay, so how can I transcribe it to a poem, to a food, and send it out there for the people to eat it, taste it, dream it, to speak it. And I'm thinking, okay, so we speak, like you said, speaking the dream weave, right? So being the dream, right? In this reality, if I I don't know where my notes are. So the speaking the unvanquished dream, which is what you said. The unvanquished great dream of peace, remembering who we are by dreaming a great dream of peace.
Right, which is an individual journey into understanding the nature of dreaming. Are you the dreamer, the dream, the dreamt, and have you experienced yourself before the dream existed? And will you experience yourself after the dream is ended? It's several different states of beingness and awareness that combine into a single state of awareness as an I am dream frequency. I am exists in the duality and the singularity simultaneously without competition to either side. And dreaming the great dream of peace is when all the versions of yourself are sharing the motives that impel them towards peace as a common dream, where all the parts of yourself are examining and exploring the many facets of peace and sharing it as a communal singularity experience.
Okay. I'm going to listen to this again. I loved it. So, in other words, when you have a really good dream, because I mean, I woke up this morning and it was just incredible. And I'm thinking, wow, this is, I mean, I know what it means, but like, we can create that dream in this reality, right? Becoming.
No.
No.
No. Not until you've experienced all the parts of the dream, the dreamer, the dreamed before and after, and become an equal co-creation, non-competition, non-hierarchical order, non-duality, singularity, I am dreaming now, light body DNA nation of one, which is a code for understanding the nature of enlightenment that's simultaneous existence. It's not a singular thing you can do now. That's being in the mind and not in the dream. Learning how to stop cognifying everything as part of experiencing the nature of the bigger dream. Right now, you're trying to cognify an answer.
Yes. Yes. I'm trying to understand it.
Right. And it's okay.
I'm trying to get to how I do that, or what's that? Whether you have a tools or whatever I can, listen to. I don't know. That's what I'm trying to get to. But you're right. I'm trying to understand.
Can't get to it in this plane. That's the thing. It's all the planes simultaneously sharing the experience, which then creates a light experience here, in which you then translate into English as part of a manifestation.
Manifestation. Yeah, that's the one. Yes. Okay. Cool.
But there's a series of light-based memories that create the nature of the experience.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm not.
Right. Philosophers from around the universe are scratching their head going, oh, that's going to take 100 years to figure out.
I don't want to figure it out. I just want to it, or I don't know what's the word, the galactic word for it. Manifest it, rather, a manifestation.
You can't make it until you figured it out, though.
Sorry?
You can't make it until you figured it out. Cart before the horse.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can't really, like you said, you can't really figure it out, if you will. You can't really cognitively figure it out because it's beyond. It's beyond. So.
Until such a time you've had enough beyond experiences that define beyond as part of your knowingness.
Now that's what I was looking for. I'm going to write this. Yes, exactly. That's the sentence I was looking for.
Human linguistics that are helping you define the nature of the experience that will allow next level thinking, next level manifestation.
Yes. But
linguistics are splitting hairs still. You can't split hairs in spirituality. If it's a splitting a hair, it's both simultaneously. And if it's both simultaneously, it's part of the duality that is already solved by the singularity.
Okay. Okay. I get it now. I get it now. Not cognitively, but energetically.
After a while of people really advancing into this, and both Bartina, Mary, and Laura and David can all agree with this, you learn that you can have two forms of thinking at once and they not compete each other, And then you can experience both realities simultaneously without them competing with each other, each having a different agenda too. And when you learn to not allow the many agendas to get confused, they allow each one to be separate without your need to control it, that's when the universe is really working with you as part of that flow, that uniflow around you. You can see synchronicities just appear.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I normally work like that, but sometimes when, like, I'm going through levels, and that's like another step, and I'm thinking, okay, so how can I do that? How can I be that? And I think that's why I had this little thing in my head, like, like figuring out, if you will, is what you said.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I got the energy. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I got the energy what you are saying.
Anybody else?
I have to really listen the words, but the energy I got.
Andrew, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead, Norman.
This is on the accumulation of knowledge. I suppose for our mere mortals, we learn through our parents, we learn at school, university, college. It might be a university of life. We learn through relationships, reading, discussion groups like this. And I appreciate that when you were a young boy, you were in that stadium with 80,000 people and you had that light bulb moment. But apart from revocations, what are the kind of main things in your line that you think that we should be learning, or what's the best way of learning?
How to pray without having to have notes. How to pray in a form of contribution to the all of the universe at a high scale. How to pray as contribution and service to yourself, family, and friends without ego attached. Learning rituals and ceremony that balance ancestral energies, your mother and father, their mother and father, and their mother and father, 7 generations back. And then learning to balance the 7 generations to your future by offering energy, your life story, the knowledge and wisdom that you've learned as a story being told forward in time to the future yous. Now that generally is a form of prayer, but it's also an expressive spoken word autobiography of who you were in the past to who you are now, what it takes to be you and maintain you, and knowing that the out loud name it to claim it system is 50% of the journey. The other 50% is knowing that at times you have to lower the journey of the I am and allow the allness of the universe to bring messages to you that you don't interfere with. And other times the messages from the universe are overwhelming and you've got to stand up to the universe and go, too much, too fast. Let me process, so that you acknowledge your level of responsibility is equal to your level of awareness. Well, that's my equation for the type of question that you asked. But there are other things that are really minute skills that become very advanced at the grandmaster level. Like knowing what is in your obvious around you right now. I have a lamp over there, I have that over there, but then there's the unseen obvious. And regularly asking yourself this question, which is an intuition journey, what is in my unseen world obvious? What is the obvious things in my unseen world? That puts you right on the edge of the unknown and puts you on the light on you. What's in my unseen world? Am I scanning it? As a regular growing skill set, because the unseen world has all these things that are moving in it. And when you practice what I call grandmaster of the obvious training, seen and unseen, you're able to rapidly tune into what's the obvious energies in your world that's trying to create tacit consent that may be negative on you. That's the main journey, building up all these little micro skills that really help you understand how the world is constantly trying to contract energy to you, so that you know, well, okay, I can buy this, burger from a restaurant and nothing's attached to it. Or I ask myself, is there anything attached to me paying for this burger? Well, the 15-year-old kid that's cooking the burger, there's negative karma to it. I don't have to accept their karma, but I can still eat the burger. And that's me doing my unseen obvious training whenever I go out. And it's a journey I've done for a long period of time. And it's not something I obsess about. It's something I regularly practice. So I'm really good at snap of the finger, what's in my unseen world, what's obvious right in front of me. Does that help?
It does. You mentioned at the outset without notes.
Yes, prayer without notes.
Was that just a kind of metaphoric without notes, or was it, because I mean, note taking often helps you learn, but you're saying, is that just metaphorical without notes?
There comes a point in your time where you can get into the flow and you don't need notes. Like I could go 2 straight hours without notes and fully be in a spiritual prayer situation. Okay, part of what I did is I trained with the Huichol Indians, and it took 7 years to learn how to pray. 7 years. Okay, before I got any form of recognition in the tribe. By the 2nd year, I could flow so fast without notes because I had become good at the north is the place of the ancestors, the south is the innocence. I understood the natures of the teachings. I had memorized them, and I could work with them on the flow and the fly. That's what I mean about that. Reaching a point of familiarity with them that you can just go 10, 15 minutes without having to look at notes or longer. That means you're in that pure spiritual, I am in the body state, using my creativity and my voice to make pure manifestation. That's my truth.
Thank you. Thank you.
You want me to expand on any of that, or is that any more questions?
That's certainly enough for me at the moment to take it. Thank you.
Okay.
I was just going to add in there, Andrew, not to overwhelm you, Norman, but just to say I've now been practicing from Andrew's teachings for a number of years now. And what I found with all the things he mentions, it has just become incorporated, what he will call living the mystical life daily, or is also known as dancing the dream. Yep. So much I do what we would say is second nature. It's just there. There's a heart-spaced awareness with it. Whereas in the morning, you know, when I make my juice, I take it outside under the sun and I share my Akashic record with it so that I can have all the nutrients of that juice. Maybe do a morning dance or a morning prayer. And I don't always even cognitize it as that's what I'm doing. It just seems to flow. Whether I'm walking in the woods and it's communicating with the trees or any of that, it just becomes, for me, it's become a way of living.
And that's its intention, a way of life.
Yes.
And daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly practice becomes second nature way of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, could I just say that you know, I don't consider myself good at writing either. And I find that if I say simple kind of prayers, like if I talk to trees, I talk to the car, I talk to the road on my way to work, I talk to the sky. And I find that actually is easy. It flows for me when I do that. It's just if I pray with the nature that's around me and to give thanks for what's around me. I don't need to worry about what I'm going to say next in those situations. I think I have some leftovers from school days when it comes to formal kind of writing or praying that I immediately think I'm going to not know what to say next. So if I just do it really simply and just do it with what's around me and notice everything that's around me, I find that easy to do. And I find it quite profound in its own simple way.
Because not all prayers are words, are they?
No.
Prayers can be in all forms, can't they? Whether it's music or dancing or whatever medium
Yes.
you want to express.
Like,
prayer isn't
life really is a prayer, isn't it? You know, the way we live our lives is actually like a prayer, really.
life is a prayer too.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
the Bon Jovi song, Living on a Prayer.
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
And I suppose being mindful is a huge aspect of prayer for me, because it's just, again, being mindful of what's around me and all of the goodness that, excuse me, is around me, and nature again. And it goes back a lot to nature, I suppose, really, for me.
What wants to get in and out of your frequency? Both
it wants to. Sorry, Andrew, what did you say there?
What wants to get in and out of your frequency, both good and bad, and that's the nature of mindfulness.
Yes.
You'll have to use a prayer to those negative energies to go no.
Yes. And if you're really mindful, there isn't that much space for that to come in either. You know, if you're living as best you can mindfully, it does fill that space with other stuff other than the negative.
Yeah.
But like, none of us do that all the time, obviously. You know, that's the aim, and that's the dream, and that's the journey. But we all slip in and out.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's also the nature of learning the mystical life daily, so that there's the window of potentiality that the mystical can bring the flow to you, and then allow yourself to process it during the day as you're going about your daily duties.
Yes. It makes you just more aware of what it is that's around you and what's in yourself.
And then you can make a spiritual strategy, which is, what do I want to do with my spiritual life?
Yes. Yes.
And along those lines, you know, your conversation yesterday with Martina went into harmony, frequency, and vibration. Yep. And that became, you know, kind of beyond cognition for me at the point. It was just a beingness that you created. Was that what was happening, or is that?
The nature of the law of frequency, vibration, and harmony is to not have cognition behind it. That's a universal law. All too often, our spiritual selves want to co-create with it, and that is a forcing of matching, instead of naturally allowing the fractalization of the universe around you to synchronistically align the fractal to you.
So the forcing, So the forcing is what brings up the synchronicities, the unnatural synchronicities. What's the word I'm looking for? The inauthentic synchronicities.
False synchronicities, yes.
False. Thank you.
Limitations, because if the group is open to it, does that increase?
You can never use it as a group equation. As long as you're using it as a group equation, you've missed the individuality of the experience. No individual share a group experience exactly the same. It's the nature of humanity.
But, like in the conversation, does it rev it up? Like the frequency, harmony, and vibration, so that your experience, it's an individual experience, but it seems to be, well, I guess it is beyond the cognition. And, I felt that in the conversations that,
because that is what the nature did to you. It added flow to you. Now, not everyone had flow added to them. There were many people in yesterday's show, and not because of whatever Martina and I were saying or doing, the frequency was too high for them to tap into the stream, and only a small part of them could really perceive it. Okay? And there are other people who were able to match the vibration naturally, but they couldn't harmonize with the conversation. So it's like a skipping record. They miss significant portions of it. And then there are other ones who are forcing all the vibration and the frequency and have zero harmony to the actual nature of the conversation as a time-space equation in the Great Awakening, because not enough of them is a part of the Great Awakening. Because
that cognition factor limits
to one extent. the forcing of it, but there were people who weren't forcing, who were just laid back and listening, and in an unawareness state, it became a match to them. You know, we all do it when we watch television and we go, I'm going to be entertained. And you give yourself permission to entertain, and next thing you know, you're laughing and, oh, that's a great show, no matter what it is. We've all been there. And spirituality is the same thing. It's giving yourself the permission to not have expectations to create those limitations, to just be in the moment.
Yeah, that's really come through with the harmony, frequency, and vibration that you've been going over recently.
Yeah. And as I cover it 8, 9, 10, 12 times, new layers and new layers and new layers and new layers and new layers will come out. Stuff you're like, why didn't you tell me that 6 weeks ago? It'll be because you weren't a match for it.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And I think if we try too hard to cognitively get everything that you were saying, you know, you and Martina yesterday, Andrew, you can block actually absorbing that at a deeper level. And you know, that the whole idea, I think, for me, is to try and to absorb it at a deeper level.
Yeah, but you can't. You got to absorb it at the outer layers first, the outer membrane, which then connects to your central nervous system, which will then inspires parts of the central nervous system to take on and match the light.
So does it vary then from person to person, how long it takes for it to travel, as it were, from the outer layers into the deeper system?
Yes. Yes, it does. It's everybody's different. Everyone's trauma equations are different, and educational based equations are different.
And is that what affects that? Yes.
Not just that, but their vibration of the moment and all the continuing moments in which they're listening to them make up a greater equation as does it create a lasting memory or not? Now, like Martina, at the end of the show, she's like, I could barely remember anything I said. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it did create a memory of experience in her.
Yes, I can identify with that feeling, actually. You know, if you asked me, I couldn't remember everything you said either. If you said to me now, can you remember everything I said yesterday with Martina? No. But if you bring up a topic, then I remember it. So I suppose it's there in my memory bank somewhere. And if it's brought up again, I remember it. But I won't remember everything.
The same with me. That's why when people ask me a question, I'm a signature frequency teacher of the moment of now.
Okay.
Not then or will be. So does that mean the answer changes every time? No. The perceiver's equation changes every time. I chose a long time ago to be a standing wave in time. So the message of frequency, vibration, and harmony is already encoded into the message I'm creating. I could go blah, 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 babble, 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 and it could do the exact same thing as words if I chose to be a babbling teacher. And there are many babbling teachers out there.
Oh, yes. We know.
I just chose to match without control because of the precognitive workforce, my flow. So my flow of words is the frequency, vibration, and harmony match as a signature frequency teacher of the moment of now. And those that are perceiving the signature frequency teacher of the moment of now have an equation and a contract to get it on some level, learn from it on some level, deny it on some level, or all of the above simultaneously.
Yes. Mm. And do you think that your frequency adjusts to in relation to your audience?
My frequency adjusts not necessarily on the audience based off of what I'm going through. It's more than what the audience is going through.
Okay. Okay.
And yes, there are times the audience, I can feel a bubbly energy from it, and it adds a bubbly energy to me. And then there are the ones where, like I've said this before, I peek into the future and determine the impact of the show, past, present, and future. So
Yes.
it's the live people that are listening are equal to the people that are listening in the archives also.
Yes, that's very exciting. I always find that very exciting, and I've heard you say that so many times. And I'm wondering, you know, I know you say we can all do what you do. I wonder, are we capable of doing all of that? Because sometimes even on this kind of chat, I know that I can sometimes feel an energy of the overall group. And I'm not necessarily looking for it, but I just feel something.
Also, for me, it was strategy. A long time ago, I created a plan. I followed through with it, realized that that plan was limited, created a new plan, followed through with it, realized it was limited, created a new plan, and so on until I got to the point where I was following the precognitive plan in the moment. And the short-term plans that I made were for me and just my experience, and the precognitive workforce were my metaphorical minions that were doing all this excess work that I didn't have to do in the moment of now because I wasn't responsible for it. I was only responsible for this Andrew's happiness, joy, and now to be in contact with my precognitive workforce that had a plan to deal with the massiveness of people wanting, needing, desiring, waiting, accepting.
Yes. So in other words, it was really practice. You just tried this, you know, different approaches until you found the one that works for you right now.
Well, it all led to the right now.
Yes.
All the plans still shared to the right now until I discovered what made me joyful, happy by doing this kind of work.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes. Yes.
So it was actually changing your strategy each time to the needs of the moment.
Yes. And not getting caught in my own enlightenment traps or being pigeonholed by the audience who were demanding 200 more hours of galactic history after I already given them 180 hours.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I've always said to you, you're always like one step ahead or several steps ahead.
Yeah. Like a chess.
You move so quickly.
It's not quickly. It's there's a plan, and the precognitive workforce, you know, I use them to the fullest advantage.
Yes.
And it's not cheating. What is cheating? Okay. Cheating is just a perspective.
Okay.
Yes, everything is just a perspective.
Natalie used to joke and at the same time be serious. You cheat. Andrew,
I remember her saying that.
And I go, perspective. Cheating is another person's way of getting it done fast.
I have a question, Andrew, for you in relation to yesterday's show. Is it okay to ask that?
Yes, absolutely.
It's the part where you were talking about the holder of the contracts and that they're usually the former IAMs and they're holding the contract for the fetus coming in. And my question is, if
hold on, you've got the context wrong. Now, a former IAM may have had a previous contract with a previous agency and a previous entity and agency that has good marks, and then they pass on the employee file and the agency file to the new fetus.
Okay.
Okay? And they get to choose if they're going to hire based off of that file and talking to the other IAM. There are other times when the other IAM's gone bankrupt and they got a corrupt file.
Okay.
Okay, it's just like when the employees are running the insane asylums being run by the inmates.
Right. So the other IAMs, are they soul shards? Are they part of the soul of the overall soul?
Every IAM is a legacy to all the other IAMs, past, present, and future, if they've gone through their life review and separated the shards that couldn't be a part of the healing, or brought the shards into them that needed healing, so that they could be a completed I am that is in your Akashic record as one of the many teachers of the previous selves that you have.
Okay. Is there ever then kind of competition for which part of the soul will inhabit the fetus?
Yes, always competitions.
Okay.
Can do it better.
Where would they fit in terms of agencies and employees and all of that? Where would they fit in?
If there's a real competition and there's a limited amount of life spots, then one will win out, because the higher soul will go and work with the angelic guides and determine if those synchronicities are just hopium or can actually be made in reality that are not too super difficult. Other times, there are enough spots to get in, so you'll be more than one human at a time. You'll be 10 or 12.
So would that be 10 or 12 fetuses then?
Separate fetuses with separate I ams, still connected to the same higher soul.
Okay.
Or
And would there be any chance that those fetuses, you know, when they grow up into people, that they would meet? Or is that what we look for when we're looking for soul family? Does that come into that?
Yes,
No?
twins and triplets and quadruplets and septuplets are like that.
Right.
Okay. And then there are times that one is born to one mom in New Zealand and another is born to another mom in Austria. And somehow, some way they meet and fall in love, which ends the competition between I ams. And they then have an offspring, which is a combination of the two I ams who have gone through full forgetting and make a brand new I am or hybrid I am of the previous experiences.
That sounds really special. I'm sure that wouldn't happen that much, would it?
It happens more often than you think.
Right. Mm.
So can I ask, Andrew, because you're talking about 2 years old, the I am technology comes in.
Right.
Does that account for the terrible twos or toddler tantrums?
Responsibility. That's why they're tantruming and having teething. They have to be more responsible, and they have less connection to the infinite dream space, and that's why they cry and moan and go through the terrible twos and have to rely on the mother and father as data input.
Right.
And that's why the mother and father imprints at such a young age ancestral karmas, both good and bad.
Okay.
And then at the age of the teenage years, you have another kind of
the rest of the I am takes over. It unpacks into the vagus nerve, and it will determine if you're going to fire.
I just need to turn off the phone.
Yeah. Anyone else? Martina, you there?
Yes, I am.
Any second thoughts now that you've 24 hours away from the show?
Oh God, I made a mistake. I started transcribing it this morning.
What happened?
I'm just knackered from transcribing it, to be honest. No, there's so many, because, you know, when you asked me, you know, what we had expanded, and, you know, I didn't have any words, and there was so many things we did expand on. And it was only the first draft. Like you said earlier on, you know,
right.
the more of, and I would really recommend not just that show, but any shows, just transcribe it as much as you can, because it really brings it, you know, into that next layer. Even if you have taken it on the vibrational level, you know, it's really nice to transcribe it. It does help you to bring it into the cognitive, you know.
So I'm gonna make an odd kind of statement question for you.
Oh,
so the next time you go to transcribe, can you feel me messaging the future person who's going to transcribe it?
when I transcribe it, can I feel you messaging?
The transcribee being the you of the now, not the one in the show.
Well, okay, yeah, that makes sense, because so many times I actually wanted to stop and there was somebody saying, no, you carry on, keep on going. So now I know that was you then. Okay.
And you too.
It's really incredible, because I was almost falling off the chair and I thought, no, I can finish this. I can finish this before the Zoom, you know. It's almost an addiction.
That's you're feeling a blissful state from your precognitive workforce.
Yeah.
Your precognitive workforce is definitely sharing a bottle of wine right now.
Yeah, no, it was good fun. Good fun.
So next time you're in a transcribing state and you're aware of that, play with it, talk with it in the mind as you're transcribing. I like you said that to Norm, actually, you know, to really invite the unseen in, and we do so much on a subconscious level in an unawareness, but it's nice to really bring that into awareness. And again, just like Mary said, you know, it doesn't have to be a huge, you know, pompous prayer or something. It could just be that conversation. Yep. That's how it works for me. They speak in code, and 5 or 6 minutes later, I process the code, and sometimes right away.
Yeah. I think I do a lot like that too. And also, you know, that Mary, like your paintings and anybody who does anything creative, well, everything is creative, I suppose, but you know, you use the code a lot, and you know, it's everything has a code. It's really interesting. We don't think along those lines.
No.
That everything is coded, you know, because you think, oh, there must be numbers now, a certain number sequence, but that's not what a code is. Do you want to expand on that, what a code is?
So we are the cipher that unlocks the code. And our frequency, vibration, and harmony in its natural state is the nature of the cipher to the unlimited data set. We are working with a finite data set that has all the potential to be an unlimited data set.
Yeah. So go, yeah.
Just ask, is this why I feel I can understand so much more than I can eloquently put out in words?
Yes, absolutely.
So I view it like I sort of get a download, which I unpack.
Correct.
And decode
into your little self closets and self drawers.
Yeah.
Only you see as an internal being.
Yes, and it's a gradual turning of the cogs for me. You know, and it can take a long time, or it can take a few days, depending on the sort of the download that's come in. But it can take me quite a while to get the full grasp of it. It must be the same for many people.
Plus, your environment is a key part of that too.
Yes, I've noticed that.
Environmental energy is a key part too.
Yeah, I have noticed that. Yeah, where you're at. Yeah.
When you say environment, do you mean where she's living or where she's at in herself?
Both.
Right. Yeah. Going to say all of that.
Yeah.
I think that
I would
my frequency of the moment, doesn't it? And it depends how many distortions I've set up within my field to receive that information.
Bingo.
And you know, if I'm out in nature, or as you were saying, Mary, some things just flow. I mean, a lot of my creativity comes from my walks away from home.
Yeah.
I'm sure it does for many people, because we come home and then there's all sorts, unless you're living on your own and you can sort of maintain that, you know, high vibrational state, or whatever state you want it in, you're going to encounter other frequencies when you come in, which just immediately distorts a lot of that download coming in.
That's right.
But we have this need, don't we, or a desire to put words on what we have experienced. We just seem to, and sometimes you just can't do it, and sometimes words just fail it, really.
I suppose we're trying to make it into something cognitive,
To
which
understand it,
makes
maybe.
it finite. And that's what I like about the dream time, is things are so infinite there. I can, you know, putting my dreams into words can be difficult at times because I've understood just what was said. But when I go to write it down, it doesn't make sense. But I know I've got a depth and a level of understanding of that dream. And then again, that's the infinite changing into this finite point of view, isn't it?
I remember one time doing workshops on dreams, and one of the things they stressed a lot, I don't know what you'd think about this, Andrew, was that it was really important to be able to identify or to sort of tune in with the feeling in the dream. What was the feeling when, whatever, you know, that there was a lot of information in recognizing and in feeling the feeling. Would you agree with that?
Not in all of that.
Okay.
There are some dreams that are absence of feeling. But when you go to review them, you can feel them as a separate observer post-dream. And then there are other dreams that are full of feeling, but once you're out of the dream, you cannot feel them. There's a separation between the dreamer and the dream. And then there are dreams that you can do all that with. And when you cognitively try to feel the emotions and connect to the emotions, are you really in that lucid dreaming state to re-experience or to add to the experience? What they were trying to teach you is to enter that delta state or high theta state and re-enter the dream space and continue it.
Yes.
But they didn't really know what they were doing, because a dream never really ends. It's still that infinite thing. And we can re-enter the stream in a new frequency of time, and maybe a lot has transpired, but it's like missing 2 seasons of a 500-year soap opera. You can catch up real fast.
Right.
Okay? Or you just jump in, it's the same characters, nothing's changed. Okay? Somebody's come back from the dead.
Yeah, that's fabulous that the dreams are infinite and you can jump into them at any time. If you ask, I wonder that.
Sometimes you can ask and it works, and other times there's dreams that have, you know, like when you've got files that are, you know, blacked out and they don't want you to read that stuff because you're not supposed to know it, or you have to reach a certain level of enlightenment to take those you know, restrictions away.
Yeah.
Because sometimes dreams can actually give you, well, for me, they can give me more clarity on something I didn't have clarity on.
Yes, and they can do the opposite too. They can be confusing shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah.
And I think some dreams can help you, or help me anyway. I found this, that they can help me work something out, bring it to a conclusion, or I don't know, some sort of a point of view that is something feels resolved. It's like I go through an emotional kind of experience in the dream and it's all resolved. And it's like, ooh, it feels good actually when I wake up after all those.
Anybody else?
I think I've got enough there too.
Yeah,
Yes.
use the opportunity before we come off. Anyone has another question for Andrew today?
Thank you. Thanks, Andrew, for coming.
Guys.
Everyone is saturated. Fantastic. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on, huh?
Thanks,
Spiritual one time.
Fantastic. And that's one to transcribe too. There was a lot of stuff here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've had 2 big shows 2 days in a row.
Yes.
Yes.
And now I've got to top myself for tomorrow.
Yeah.
I hope.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thanks, Andrew, for coming on, and thanks, guys, for everyone coming on today and joining us. And we're gonna say goodbye for today, and we're gonna see you next week, Wednesday, and we'll probably come up with a topic then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Ciao, ciao.
Bye.